John Carter had served in the United States Army for years, fighting in countless battles. He had enlisted at a young age and spent most of his life on the battlefield. He had lost friends, faced death more times than he could count, and carried wounds, both visible and invisible, when he finally retired. When he returned home, he was no longer the fearless soldier he once was. He was just a man, tired, broken, and alone. But there was one thing that kept him going: his loyal dog, Max. Max wasn't just any dog. He was an Afghan war survivor, a German shepherd John had rescued during one of his missions. They had found him as a tiny abandoned pup, shivering in the cold desert night. Other soldiers had suggested leaving him behind, but John couldn't. He carried Max in his arms that night, and from that moment on, they became inseparable. Max grew into a strong, intelligent dog who saved John's life more times than he could count. He sensed danger before anyone else, stood guard during sleepless nights, and in the chaos of war, had become John's only constant. But when the war ended, John realized that some battles never truly stop. At night, he would wake up drenched in sweat, haunted by nightmares of gunfire and explosions. His hands would tremble, his breath would quicken, and the only thing that grounded him was the warm, steady presence of Max beside him. The dog never left his side, curling up next to him and pressing his head against John's leg, as if to remind him, "You're safe now." Hoping to escape his past, John moved to a quiet town in rural Montana. He thought the silence would help, but it was suffocating. The nightmares didn't stop, and the loneliness was unbearable. The only thing that kept him tethered to reality was Max. One crisp autumn morning, John and Max went on their usual walk through the dense woods near their home. The leaves crunched beneath their feet, and the air smelled of pine and damp earth. Max trotted ahead, ears perked, always alert. Then suddenly, he stopped. John had learned to trust Max's instincts. The dog's body stiffened, his ears stood erect, and a low growl rumbled in his throat. A moment later, a piercing scream echoed through the forest, a child's scream. Without hesitation, John ran toward the sound. Max bolted ahead, disappearing through the trees. When John broke through the dense foliage, he saw a young boy struggling in the river's strong current. The icy water was dragging him away. Without thinking, John dove in. The freezing water stole his breath, but he pushed forward. Max reached the boy first, biting gently onto the child's jacket and paddling toward the shore. John grabbed the boy, and together they pulled him onto solid ground. The boy trembled violently, eyes wide with fear. "I lost my mom," he stammered. John quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around the child. "You're safe now," he reassured him. Max, sensing the boy's distress, licked his hand, offering silent comfort. A few moments later, the sounds of people shouting filled the forest. The townspeople had been searching for the missing child. When they saw John and Max, relief washed over them. "You saved him," a woman gasped, tears in her eyes. John simply shook his head. "He saved him," he said, looking at Max. Because the truth was, Max wasn't just a dog. He had saved John countless times, on the battlefield, through the long, lonely nights, and now, in this quiet town, where John had thought his hero days were over. That night, as John sat on his porch, stroking Max's fur, his eyes welled with emotion. "I don't know what I'd do without you, buddy," he whispered. Max let out a content sigh and rested his head on John's lap. And for the first time in years, John felt something he thought he had lost forever: peace.
If you were touched by this incredible story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Your support helps us share more inspiring moments.